Hi, Dan Stein, President of FAIR. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined today by Tom Homan, former head of ICE, and of course, you know he works at the Immigration Reform Law Institute, and Mark Morgan, former head of CPB, and he's also working here with FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform. Thanks for joining, fellas. Listen, we're hearing some intelligence now. The Biden administration is expecting a massive, major surge of illegal immigration coming across when they abolish this Title 42, end of the pandemic. What does this mean for the country?
Well, so what it means is right now, Title 42 is, I think everyone understands, it was a public health order that allowed CBP, mainly the Border Patrol agents, to actually, those that apprehended come across illegally, to process them on the border themselves and then remove them. That, on average, that happened, they were able to get that done in about 2 hours. When Title 42 goes away, every single one of those illegal aliens now are going to have to be processed under Title 8, which means they're going to have to be brought into the facilities of Border Patrol. It's going to lengthen the processing time. It's going to pull more agents off the front lines, off their national security mission. It's going to relate to not only the longer processing times, they're overcrowded facilities, but again, we're going to have larger areas of our border, wide open, unpatrolled, unmonitored. Drugs are going to pour in at a higher rate, gang members, and more gotaways.
But we've had completely uncontrolled mass illegal immigration for 12 months. They're calling it a mass immigration event that's going to happen. How much worse can it get, Tom?
It's going to get a lot worse because, look, if you look at the numbers starting for FY22, starting in October, we're on a glide path right now to beat last year's numbers. Last year's number was an historic high. This nation's never seen that much illegal immigration. And when Title 42 goes away, plus the big caravan groups that are forming now, you're going to see numbers like we've never seen before. And that's what we said last year. It's historic. Never seen these numbers before. Hold on tight. They're going to blow those numbers away based on the glide path they're currently on.
Well, what do you think the message the Biden administration is sending the world? Now, they just gave TPS to Afghanis now, what, how many months after we left Afghanistan? What's the message Mayorkas keeps sending the world?
I think the stats says what the message is, Dan, and I know you know this well. The message is now is the time to come. If you come to our country, break into our country illegally, not only are we going to help you do that, we're going to facilitate that, but then once we release you in the United States, we're going to prevent ICE from lawfully detaining you. Look at the numbers. As Tom said, historic high numbers of illegal aliens. We've never seen the numbers like we have. It's going to get worse. In the first 12 months of the administration, they apprehended illegal aliens from 150 different countries. So this is not just about Mexico. This is not just about the Northern Triangle countries. It's beyond the Western Hemisphere. And that's why we also say that the border, this is about national security. Because as you and I have talked about, in the first 12 months of the Biden administration, you won't hear much about this. They also apprehended 14 illegal aliens on the FBI's terror screening database, TSDB. Those are just the ones they apprehended. What we don't hear much about is the 600,000 gotaways, because our border is wide open, again, because those agents are pulled off their line to basically be relegated to a travel agency, and the border is wide open. 600,000 gotaways in the first 12 months.
Let me add to the messaging. You talk about the messaging. I've seen intelligence reports that criminal cartels are using the Secretary's very own words, Secretary Mayorkas' very own words, to sell to bring more border people in the country. What's the two big things the Secretary said? Number one, being in the country illegally is not enough for ICE to make an arrest. So they think that once they get by the Border Patrol, or if they get released by the Border Patrol, even if they get an order of removal, ICE isn't looking for them. That's number one. Number two, Mayorkas has ordered ICE to stop worksite enforcement operations. What's the number one reason people come to this country? One of the top reasons is to get a job. Now they can come here illegally, don't have to worry about ICE removing them because they're only here illegally. Then they can get a job illegally because ICE is no longer doing worksite enforcement operations. That are the two biggest reasons people are going to be flown into this country. And the cartels are using the Secretary's own words to sell their services.
So now we're seeing some of the biggest refugee flows in Eastern Europe than we've seen in recent history. 3 million maybe or more have moved out of Ukraine. We're also in a period of high risk, also tremendous volatility worldwide. What does the Biden administration need to hear to ultimately realize that this is a period of undisclosed high risk and that our borders are completely vulnerable?
Oh, Dan, look, for me, they've heard it all. And that's why, so some of the discussions have been back, oh, they got caught off guard, oh, they don't know what they're doing. No, I don't believe that. This is intentional, Dan. You know, Tom and I, we both worked for Secretary Mayorkas when he was the Deputy Secretary of DHS. Dan, this man knows exactly what he's doing.
So what the hell is he doing?
Look, this is what I've been...
What explains this behavior? He goes in front of Congress, tells lies, hides data.
I'm totally with you. I think he does lie. I think he has lied. I think he's continued to lie. Let me give you a quick example. example of a lie. When in Del Rio, when we saw the 15, 20,000 illegal aliens come across and set up a third world camp in our own country, at that time, and they were going back and forth at will. At that same time, Secretary Mayorkas was actually on the ground still putting out the lie that our borders are closed. It's just a bald-faced lie. Here's why, is that what we're seeing now in this secretary, which is a man I don't know from the past, is that he has become more of a social activist and an ideologue. He is more concerned about the pursuit of his personal ideology than being the
We used to
secretary
call it a
of
political
Homeland.
hack. You know,
It's an ideologue because it's beyond politics, because he knows what he's doing. But again, he doesn't care. When you're an ideologue, you don't care about the second or third
But what's
order
the
effects.
end game, though? If you have communities are full of criminals, you know, violent felons, maybe a few terrorists here and there. I mean, what's the net public purpose in this?
Well, let me get back to your last question real quick, because what the secretary needs to hear, he's hearing it, right? What happened in Afghanistan, withdrawal of Afghanistan, the whole vetting process was a nightmare, and people came to this country without zero vetting. And DOD's own IG, Inspector General, came out with that report saying that. Now we're going to have the same situation over in Ukraine and Poland. We're up now. They're talking about sending CBP agents over Poland, start processing people for refugee status. The same issues are going to be there. How can they properly vet? They don't have government records and so forth. And we know
already said we're going to welcome them with open arms.
That's
You know the
right.
last president who said that? Jimmy Carter, Cuban Mario Boatles.
But because of where it's at, you're going to have Russian operatives embed themselves in these groups. So now we got national security issue. What the secretary fails to
Chinese
understand,
operators who are being arrested.
what he fails to understand is you can't have national security without border security, and you can't have border security without interior force.
But what I'll say is, look, he understands that. He's intentionally
what's the
defined that.
motivation? What's the point of this?
Again, I think there's two things. From the political side, they see a perceived political benefit in two things. Because we know illegal aliens are counted part of the census, so they see potential House redistricting there. And in addition to that, they believe, their perception is, every single illegal alien that they find a pathway to citizenship is going to equate to a Democratic vote. That's what's driven on the political side. But in this administration, Tom and I both have been doing this for 35 years. Dan worked for 6 administrations, Republican, Democrats. What we've never seen is an administration that is also filled with as many ideologues as they are. Again, they're not dumb, but they're being driven and blinded by their own ideology. That's what I see in this secretary. He doesn't care, doesn't want to hear about the second, third order negative effects of this country. All he cares about is pursuing his ideology.
Now, last question, because I know you guys are pressed. Republicans take control of Congress in November. What are the top 3 things Republicans will need to do when they hit the ground running in January 2023?
They need to pass meaningful immigration legislation. And
Give me more specifics.
The top 3 things they can do is get rid of the 3 loopholes.
What about impeaching Mayorkas?
Well, that needs to happen. They'll get rid of Mayorkas. They still need to close the loopholes that cause mass migration. They need to change the TVPRA, Trafficking Victim Protection Act, so we can remove Central American children just as quick we remove Mexican children if they're not a victim of trafficking. They need to change the asylum rules. So when you get your first interview on the border, the threshold is equal to that they're going to get in court, so they don't get released and fail in court. And the third thing they need to do is change the Florida Settlement Agreement. We need to be able to detain families to enter the country illegally, which is a crime, hold them in a family residential center long enough to see a judge. We did that in the beginning of the Obama administration, believe it or not, and the Ninth Circuit overruled it. Why? Because we showed 90% of the families lost their case. We put them on an airplane, sent them home, the border numbers tanked. So the Ninth Circuit comes in and says, you can't hold them that long. You don't hold them in 20 days. They need to change that. Fix those 3 loopholes, and you fix.
And what I'll add to that real quick,
You
Dan?
get 3 also, but hopefully there'll be ones that the American people can remember and pass along. Those are very important, but
So what I would say is policy has to happen. So I agree 100% with Tom, but let's do this. Let's give the Border Patrol the 3 strategic elements that they need and the Trump administration gave them. Build the wall, more technology, personnel. Number 1, secure the border. In addition to policy, the other thing, I agree with 100%. The first thing that should also be out of the gate is impeach Mayorkas.
And what do we do with all these illegal aliens inside the country? Because so far, if you say, oh, they're never going to go home, then they're just going to get people like that congresswoman from Miami that Tucker beat up on the other day, what's her name, who are just talking about mass amnesty.
Yeah.
There's got to be an alternative to encourage people to go back home.
So this is what I'll do, Dan. I'll actually use this. I'm not sure I'll ever do this again, is that I'm just going to use Senator Chuck Schumer's words that I agree with. In 2009, he gave a speech to Georgetown University where, one, he was bragging about the fact he voted for the 2000 Secure Fence Act, which resulted in 654 miles of wall being built. They just called it a fence, number 1. But number 2, what he said is, before we can have any serious serious discussion about anything related to amnesty, before the Americans are going to even entertain that, we have to get serious about securing our borders. And that goes back, I completely agree with Tom. There should be no discussion on any level by any congressional member to even think about or entertain or have a discussion about amnesty until we secure our borders.
Because here's the problem with Mark saying. This country has proven over and over again, hide out long enough, illegally. Even if you get ordered to remove, don't remove. Hide out long enough and we'll give you something. That's got to end. Make it illegal to get a job. You know, let's finally pass.
It is illegal.
Let's finally pass. Let's finally pass
law.
E-Verify, and let's not give benefits to those who are illegally. Stop rewarding illegal behavior.
The ability of an alien to ever get a green card, but with his willingness to respect our law. Very simple.
Absolutely.
You break the law, you're never going to be a
No
citizen.
benefits if you're here illegally. So we got to stop rewarding illegal behavior. It's never going to stop.
Well, Dan, it goes to what you're saying as well is, so I agree with Tom, we have to, those three things that Tom mentioned on a policy perspective, we have to do. Congress has to do it hands down. But there's another element. Let's just start enforcing the laws already on the books. I mean, right now, the Secretary Mayorkas, I steal this from Tom, he's actually the Secretary of Homeland Insecurity. And part of the reason is that he's not only not enforcing the law that are currently in the book, he's actually making up new law. I mean, he actually has said that to be here illegally is not enough to be removed. That's in defiance of the law. He also said,
that means illegal immigration is unlimited.
That's correct. That's right.
And not only is he not enforcing the laws on the books, he's actually violating the law. Look, fair, early, we've been working very closely with the AG in Florida, Arizona, and Texas. We're 3-0 right now.
Yep.
We got to keep up the great
Yeah,
work.
we're bringing it. Look, we're talking the walk, okay? We're doing it. Walking the talk.
Sue him, we win because he's violating the law, and we got to keep suing him. So thank God for fair.
Well, that's right. I think organizations like FAIR and the donors that support it, look, it's making a difference, Dan. Let's just take a look at the polling numbers themselves. President Biden and his whole team, they're completely upside down on their border security immigration policies right now. The American people see it, and one of the reasons why I see it is because we're out there, an organization like FAIR is out there educating the American people and telling them the truth and reality of actually what's going on.
Yep, and at the link at the bottom of this video, you're going to find a document that will reinforce what exactly these two gentlemen said for you to tell Congress, you to tell those Republicans if they take control in the next Congress, that what they need to be doing first thing out of the box. Tom Homan, Mark Morgan, thanks for joining. Sure enjoyed it.